Hey everybody, welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and we are powered by Everlight Solar. Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to the Cripescast this week. My guest is the creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Joel Hodgson. Joel is sort of Midwest royalty. Mystery Science Theater is for those of you who don't know, it's a show. It started off on local Minneapolis public television, and it's you got a B movie playing, and you've got people riffing on it, and you've probably seen it around streaming over the years, but it's an incredible show, an incredible property. It's such an honor to talk to Joel and learn about his career. He was, by the age of 24, he was in LA doing stand-up on Letterman, SNL. He was offered his own TV show, his own role on a TV sitcom, and decided to give it all up and go back to the Midwest. And as you'll hear, he just started playing with robots and toys, and you know, every step of his life, though in the moment may seemingly have felt bizarre, it all led to a really cool creation. So it was a real pleasure to talk with Joel. And I met Joel actually at Joey's Song, where I met a bunch of guests on the show. Joey's Song, again, a benefit for children with epilepsy. We do it every year. So beyond that, really excited to talk with Joel, and we'll get to that in a moment. But before we do, guys, I am on tour. If you want to come see me in Denver, Greeley, Denver is sold out, but Davenport, Iowa, Sioux City, Charleston, and Durham, North Carolina. Those are all shows that are coming up. I'm also going to be in Florida soon, Los Angeles, and yeah, I get around. So there you have it, folks. I'll see you on the road. And folks, also, we've got a bunch of merch up at cripescast.com. Just click on the merch section. We've got Midwest shirts for maybe your special someone this Valentine's Day. We've got 15% off, in fact. If you're looking to get someone like a watch out for deer shirt, because best way to say I love you in the Midwest, cards, bottle openers, koozies, whatever, get it over there, folks, cripescast.com. And also, and maybe you want to get someone, you know, nothing says I love you like a subscription to the Patreon channel. Charlie Barons, or patreon.com/Charlie Barons. You can get it all for just $5 a month. And, you know, it's less than the cost of a dozen roses. And let me tell you, it gives you about the same joy as a dozen roses, too. OK, but every single day, every single week, we put up new behind the scenes clips and extended cuts. First look at ticket sales. You can find that over patreon.com/Charlie Barons. All right, folks. And also, before we get to the podcast, we are continuing to raise money for Doctors Without Borders. They are helping with the incredibly tragic situation that just continues to get more and more tragic in Gaza. So Doctors Without Borders is doing everything they can. They are sending doctors. They are sending supplies. They are trying to get food there, all sorts of things. And so best way to support that cause that we found, Doctors Without Borders, check them out and donate today. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will get to my conversation with Mystery Science Theater creator, Joel Hodgson. Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Where are you, man? Where do you reside? Do you live in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
My mom's from Milwaukee. They were I think it was the Cardinals, whatever that was, East. I don't know if that still exists anymore.
The Cardinals East.
All I remember is the yearbook said the Cardinals.
Trying to think, who is the Cardinals?
I don't know, but it was a city, in the city, totally a city.
Oh, it was a city school. Yeah.
There was Pulaski too.
Pulaski. Yeah. So Pulaski, that's over on 76 76. It's over by Gillies.
Did you know Dan Harmon's from Milwaukee?
You know, I did because of a fellow named Rolly Cafaro. Do you know a guy named Rolly Cafaro at all? He's an improv guy, and he used to work with Dan Harmon.
Oh.
And do you know Dan at all?
Yeah, for sure. I know him pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys probably were in the same circles for quite a bit. Did you meet when you went out to LA, or did you meet?
Those guys are younger than me, him and Rob Schraub. And those guys are younger than me. I was done with my first run at Mystery Science Theater when I met those guys, and they were just coming out. They just came out to LA. So after MST, I moved out to LA, and they had moved out. So they were just starting out. They had an improv group called the Dead Alewives. Remember,
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a great name, man. Because anyone in the Midwest or around the Great Lakes knows that smell. You know, when the alewives have their mass extinctions. We actually had a fellow named Dan Egan on, who our conversation was about the Great Lakes and the sort of, mass die-offs of the alewives and why it happens, and zebra mussels and all this and that. That's a great name, man.
I know, right? Super cool.
So when you met Dan, did you know that, or did you have a feeling that sort of he was going to be set up for the kind of success that he has had, or were you like, who knows?
Well, it's funny. It's really funny because we used Schraub as a writer. He was a remote writer on Mystery Science Theater, and it was just based on the strength of his submission. We had a few outside writers, and I think Harmon worked on a couple, but it was uncredited. So Schraub and Harmon wrote on MST, and so that I ran into him at Comic-Con in San Diego. They had a comic book that it was Schraub's, what the hell was it called? Scud the Disposable Assassin, which is his epic comic book. And Dan had worked on it. And that's all they had done when I met him. And so that was before Community and everything. And so, but they were just both really super clever, really great guys. So we were just friends. That was all before he became a superstar and Rick and Morty and all that, Yeah.
It's kind of funny how how Midwest people go out to some place like Los Angeles and then somehow find each other, It's
really true. You kind of gravitate towards those people. Same with the Minneapolis group. I got to, you kind of hang. They hang together, right? And it's the same with any city, right? If they're from Chicago, if they're from whatever, and they go to LA, they all kind of find each other. You know what I mean? They kind of hang out. So it's really funny the way that works. I was going to say about Wisconsin, when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody famous from Wisconsin. There was nobody that I knew of. There was no Wikipedia. There's no IMDb. It's it would have been great if who's the guy from Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder, right?
Yeah.
It would be nice if they would have done things like when the players do the IDs during the Packer game, Wilder, Willy Wonka, Marquette University, or something like that, right? William Dafoe, character actor, Madison. You know what I mean? You didn't get that.
No, they say their college or their hometown or something.
So I didn't know anybody that was doing anything when I was I kind of grew up in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Do you know where that is?
Yes. In fact, I recorded an album over the summer in Fort Atkinson, next to the ice cream place, that pink ice cream shop.
What's the name of that place? Is it like is it named after a fish? Was it a studio or was it a live venue?
It was a studio, and
Yeah.
and the name right now slips my mind, which is
Yeah.
not good. But it's a great studio. Have you been there recently?
Oh yeah, I go every year. I drag my kids to Fort Atkinson and show them where I grew up and all that. And it was um it was funny growing up there because when you're in Fort Atkinson, they don't call it Fort Atkinson, they call it Fort, right? You're in Fort. And it had such a strong brand identity. They built a freaking fort in the town. It's like the symbol of the town is in the town. And when you're a little kid, you just go, oh, I got it. It's Fort. It's easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot of Wisconsin cities like that. If you just go down the road to Lake Ripley, there's symbols like an umbrella, right? They paint the water tower like an umbrella. It's like they do all the work for you, so it's easy to remember. Next city's Cambridge. There's a bridge, so it's super simple. The Rock River's got rocks in it, right? You go down the river, it's Black Hawk Island. There's hawks there. It all falls apart though when you get to Lake Koshkonong. Like, what's a Koshkonong, right?
Yeah. Or you go to Wisconsin Rapids and you realize there's no rapids in Wisconsin.
Oh, right.
Rapids,
yeah. What's going on? Where's my rapids?
Yeah. And Green Lake does not look green,
Yeah. Spooner. Like, where's the big spoon? Right? Like the muskie where's the muskie for the
Hayward,
right? Yeah. Like they should have a giant spoon in Spooner. Like it seems like a natural.
It would be, you know, what would happen though is that Hayward would, Spooner's got, who's Spooner's big rival?
Rival in what?
Like who writes? Yeah, there's this one bridge that says Spooner blows. And that's their whole thing. So I forget. I should know this. It's not Hayward, but anyway.
Is it Barron? Is it up there near Barron? I think that we're talking northeast Wisconsin now, right? Spooner is up there, isn't it? Or where is Spooner?
Yeah, it's a little. It's a Scotch. Hang on. Yeah, like over here, I think. I mean, I've been there and I've gone through it. I've just been a bunch of places. But anyway, Spooner blows. They just put like a big fan next to the spoon, you know. Anyway, there's fun stuff.
Sock City, man. Why not a sock there? A big sock.
You know what? There it is. There it is.
These people are missing out on this, just that branding.
We were in Brainerd, and they had this big old Brainerd, Minnesota, and they had this big old water tower there that they call it Paul Bunyan's flashlight.
Did you ever go to the Paul Bunyan amusement park up there back in the day?
No, I didn't. Did you go to the Paul Bunyan amusement park?
Sure, and it was electrifying because the deal is they'd canvass your names as you went in. You didn't know. Your parents said, it's Jimmy, Joel, and Julie Hodgson from Fort Atkinson. And then you walk in and freaking Paul Bunyan goes, and a welcome to Jimmy, Joel, and Julie Hodgson from Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. And it was like it was like a waking dream, right? This giant thing was talking to you. And I think they moved it. I think it's been moved, but you used to be able to see it from the highway. I don't know if it's running anymore.
Man, that I just got to say is a lot of pressure for that Paul Bunyan to actually get these names pronounced correctly.
Yeah.
He's got some wild.
And if you're a kid and he gets it wrong, you just got to go with it.
Yeah.
I'll walk forward. It's like the Wizard of Oz, kind of like, come forward, man,
And people just adapt the name that Paul Bunyan pronounces it as. It's kind of like
our name now.
Yeah.
This is who we are.
It's like Ellis Island, If they screw it up at Alice, Paul Bunyan messed it up.
We're Hodgsons now. What about Barron? How do they go wrong with Barron when they pronounce?
So I think they've done a few different versions. So technically barons, and then I think there was an H in it. And then I don't know, because there's not a ton of different baron spellings, but like, there was an H situation somewhere. But I think if you go back far enough, you can find it, your name spelled. And also, there was no spell check back then. So it was probably just, you don't know if it was the original way or just a misspelling. And does it really matter?
What are the countries of origin of the Baron family? Like, who are they?
I don't know. I mean, German,
all the white places, right?
Yeah, this is a hodgepodge of white places. Yeah, nothing really exciting going on. Although I will say that my great, potentially great, 2 to 3 great uncle, Ed Bernard, invented the ice cream sundae in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, right up there in Trivers. True story. According to my grandma.
What a happy day that must have been.
It was a happy day until there was a place in, I believe, Rochester, what's the place in New York that has the first letter that starts with an I? Iliad. I think Iliad. Yeah, it's Iliad, New York or something. Oh, they took the the title for the first ever ice cream sundae. It's since been hotly disputed between Two Rivers and I believe it's Iliad. And there's no defining thing saying it's from Wisconsin, except if you ask me, I'll say it's for sure from Wisconsin. But it's not like that. It's not like there was generational wealth from the invention of the ice cream sundae, because I think if he's awesome. In my family, he probably had a gambling love for gambling too.
There's a lot of skeletons in the closet, man.
I know, especially when you go back that far.
Yeah, oh sure, man.
Like they were doing some wild stuff back.
I know. My great grandfather was in Toma, and he was the guy who built the caskets. He had a furniture store. And he built the caskets, but he was also the fiddler in town. He's an Irish guy. And he'd play the funerals, he'd play the weddings, and he'd make out with the widows. So it's scamming on the lake. I think they got the first divorce in Wisconsin.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Again, no generational wealth from that either.
Yeah. There's no caskets. There's no, the furniture guy, it makes sense that the furniture guy would also make the caskets.
But then the thing, he's double booking because he sells a casket and he says, you're going to need music,
He's probably triple booking, He sells a chair for someone and he's like, I'll be buying this back shortly, And
then I made your cradle, and now here comes the casket.
Cradle to the grave, just like that. That's quite the business. You don't get a whole lot of furniture making, coffin making fiddle players anymore, which is
for sure. It was really sobering when it kind of came out, because I always thought, we were very, truly born again family. My grandpa was a minister, and then it comes out that great grandpa was just off the rails.
Wow. I mean, good for him, for living life to the fullest. And, you can see kind of the reaction. That was your grandfather's rebellion against his father, was being born again. He saw the damage that was caused with.
It's true. And I'm grateful he got into the church. He was a great guy, and he, I have no complaints about it at all. I had a great childhood, and I don't have any issues with it.
Did you grow up religious?
What's that?
Did you grow up religious yourself?
Yeah, we went to Faith Community Church in Fort Atkinson, which is like a mega church now. It was just now that, I mean, I haven't been there since I was a kid. And man, the church we went to in Green Bay Community Church is a mega church too now. So yeah, we were there when we were at the church in Green Bay when there were like 8 families that started that church.
Oh,
And now
really?
it's got 1,000 people in Green Bay.
Yeah, those churches
We
get
were
big
there.
quick, man.
The church was where I kind of started to get my chops, though, because it's like I was a ventriloquist when I was a kid and did magic. You know, I started out doing magic like in about 4th grade. And there are lots of places to work, like banquets and all kinds of stuff. So I really got, it was cool. It was great. There was lots of places that wanted entertainment, you know.
That's really cool. I was going to ask like where sort of the creative spark started with you.
Yeah. Strangely enough, my dad was really creative. His mom was the one whose dad was the philandering furniture maker. And he was very creative too. I got to see him do really fun stuff. Like he was the first guy I ever saw. I mean, in some ways, he kind of like he would. He was a principal. He was the principal of my grade school. I went to Rockwell High School, right? Rockwell Grade School in Fort Atkinson, and he was my principal. And then later he worked for another like Purdy or Berry School in Fort Atkinson. And in the summertime, those guys, the teachers would do lawn maintenance, and that's how they kept, getting paid, as they do lawn maintenance during the summer. And my dad found this giant cabinet of magic lantern slides, like just slides of people in fields and on rivers. And he used to do funny slideshows with them when I was growing up. Like he'd do wedding receptions, and he was really funny. And so he'd riff on these slides, right? And so I grew up watching that. It's not that different from MST, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he was really, I didn't realize it growing up. I just go, yeah, that's what your dad does. But he was very creative and did really cool, like interesting stuff. He was a teacher. So a lot of the stuff he'd do was based on teaching. So, but he was really, really engaged and creative. So I grew up with that. My mom, they were do-it-yourselfers, like they renovated their house and put up paneling. There's a lot in the 60s and the 70s. That's how everybody fixed up their places, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, just put some wood paneling over it.
Yeah, exactly. So they were doing that like crazy. And so I got into magic, and I found out about it through the church. There was a guy in our church called Charlie Fairchild. He was also the Santa Claus in Fort Atkinson.
Oh, that Charlie.
Yeah, he's a big, heavy guy, and he did magic. And I went up to him afterwards, and I go, like, how do you get this stuff? And he told me, he goes, it's from a magic supply house. And I'm like, my mind's just reeling. And later I found out it was Abbott's Magic, which was across the lake in Colon, Michigan, across. And so I started ordering magic from there and doing shows. So that's kind of how I got my chops. I did that through college. I did like open for bands. I did coffee shops, coffee houses. And then the comedy thing started, stand-up started. That was right when cable was starting. So I was just in the right place at the right time. I did stand-up my whole senior year of college, and my thesis, as stupid as it sounds, I was a communication major, so I did my thesis about my stand-up. And I headlined my senior year of college at a place called the Comedy Gallery. So I did like 6 weeks of, just, I don't know, it was like, the usual bookings in clubs back then was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You do sometimes do a show. Yeah, do a show on Sunday. And so I did that my senior year, and I got my chops that way. And then after college, I moved to LA, and like in a few months, I got on Letterman. And then a few months later, I got on Saturday Night Live, and then I got on HBO's Young Comedian Special. So in the course of like 3 years, I'd done like 5 Lettermans and 5 Saturday Night Lives, and was a club guy for 3 years before Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, I mean that's such a wild pathway, especially at a time when, I mean, comedy. Where was comedy in the sort of in pop culture? It was kind of just
maybe on a variety. You get on a talk show, get on Carson, get on Letterman. Like I remember being, I don't know, it must have been, I guess it was my senior year. I saw Letterman was when he did his first, he used to do a daytime show, right? And then he moved to late night. And I saw it, and that's all I wanted was to get on Letterman. I thought it was so great. I liked him so much. But he was a Midwestern guy. He's from like Indianapolis or something.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted was to get on Letterman, and all that other stuff just kind of came with it.
And then it happens. I mean, I kind of, even before we get to Letterman, like when you're in Minneapolis and you're just starting off, you're doing the clubs. I mean, that's a fast rise in a year, in your senior year while you're doing school, to go through school and then get enough reps to be headlining just in a year. I mean, did you feel as though you were on fast rise, or did you feel you were sort of a big fish in a small pond?
Well, it was so early. Like I'll give you an example. Like this is like the club one of the clubs I worked at was called the Comedy Cabaret. That's where I kind of started. Mm-hmm. And it was improv and stand-up. So it's kind of a hybrid. And I fit in really good there because I just did props and bad magic and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it really suited me really good. There was a stand-up club in town called Mickey Finn's, but those guys were just by the book, straight monologists. And they thought you were cheating if you brought props on stage. Like, they didn't like me. Mm. And so I found a good place to reside. And then one of the guys split, and he started his own club called the Comedy Gallery, a guy named Scott Hansen, who's a really good stand-up. And so that it just everything kind of went my way. But because I had basically been producing my own show since I was in 4th grade, it was easy for me to keep adding stuff. And once I started to get some traction, it was just really easy. Adding bits was very easy for me. And I was very, you know how it is when you just try to do comedy for real. You got to treat it like it's your job, and you got all these friends who are working 8 hours a day on something they don't care about. And right. You got this great thing, and you just go, well, shit, I can work on this for 8 hours a day. But a lot of times comics aren't like that. They don't know how to control it. They don't have that journeyman work ethic, and they just kind of wait for inspiration. But I just said, okay, this is my gig now. I'm going to spend 8 hours a day. If I spend an hour or two in a club, if I, like, let's say I was in LA and I'd work the Comedy Store every night. So that's 2 hours, but I had 6 hours to kind of prep and build stuff and write. So I just had, when you come from the Midwest and you don't really believe you're a charmed being, you go, I can work at this. I can get better. Right. And so that's what helped me a lot, is just that kind of, I'm going to put the time in, whether I'm inspired or not, I'm going to do this. And it really helped,
That's such a Midwest thing. Yeah. You grow up believing you're not a charmed being.
Right? Yeah. You know damn straight you're not.
Yeah. There's nothing special about you. Go mow the freaking lawn. Hey folks, spring is just around the corner and it is the perfect time for your house to unthaw and get a quote from Everlight Solar. If you're a fan of the podcast, you know that the Cripescast is presented and powered by Everlight Solar. That means there are solar panels right above my noggin this whole time. Go to everlightsolar.com to book your free consultation to see how solar power and solar energy can work for you. It's helping the earth. It's helping your wallet. Cut down your electricity bill and let the sun power it for you. And also, folks, Fleet Farm. Is there anything more romantic than taking your honey to the Fleet Farm on Valentine's Day? Absolutely not. Head on over to the Fleet Farm to get your special someone a special something for Valentine's Day. They got candles, candies. They got clothes. Heck, they got flowers. I mean, they have dirt and they have seeds, but, you know, buy her flowers. It'll please her for a day, but put a garden in the backyard. It'll please her for a lifetime. That's some old proverb. Anyway, check it out at the Fleet Farm. And also, hey, Midwest merch, baby, for Valentine's Day. Consider it. Go to manswalkman.com and get your special someone a little gift off the website. And you get it 15% off. And you don't need to tell them you bought it with a coupon. No, that'll be our little secret. So check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Cripescast.com. Click on the merch section. So you do all this stuff, though. I mean, you've made it in terms of your own old standard, you know, by getting on Letterman. And then where are you at in career standpoint? Are you happy at this point that you had made it, or did it feel no, of course not.
It was funny. I got you know, because I'd done all these things, I kind of had heat, right? I was like this guy, especially doing SNL, because they weren't using a lot of variety acts, but it was at this critical time during SNL when it wasn't that great. It was kind of like I think Lorne Michaels had left and Dick Ebersol was running it, who was a guy from NBC Sports. So he didn't know a lot about comedy. Mm-hmm. And so they booked me because it just was so inconsistent. And that's like the Joe Piscopo era, right? You know, and it just wasn't like, I think Eddie Murphy was in there too, but he was such a standout. But it was a tough time for SNL. And I remember Joe Piscopo came up to me. He said this really profound thing. He says, "You're lucky." He goes, "You get to do your own stuff." He goes, "I have to go out and do this, whether it's funny or not. Like, I got to do it." Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was really important. It was really amazing lesson because it kind of kept me out of being like, I'd go out for auditions and stuff. Like, the biggest show business story was Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of NBC at the time. I think there was a show called High School USA, which was like a Michael J. Fox vehicle, and they wanted me to do it. And this is when I was at Gersh. This was happening when they were my agents, and they really wanted me. And I knew this wasn't a good role for me. Like, they were just putting me in as kind of a place marker. Like, oh, we know he's funny, just put him in there. But it wasn't like based on me or anything. I wasn't an actor. Like, I could just do my persona and do my bit, but I didn't have that flexibility. And they really wanted me to do it. And it was an on-air commitment for 6 episodes. And this is a long time ago. So it's $10,000 a show. And I said no, and they doubled it. So it's $20,000 a show for 6 shows. And I just said no. I said, I don't think I really like what I've done. And I don't think I'll come out looking good, even though I'll make a lot of money in $1982 or $1984, you know, I'll make a lot of money, but I just didn't want to do it. It just felt like that compromise that makes like back then when you screw up, like I always felt like I just lose my audience. You know how it is. It's like jumping the shark, right?
Yeah.
It was like, I was really self-conscious about that. Like, I don't want to let the people down that like what I do. And I'm one of them. So I don't want to do this. So I passed on it. And that was kind of the end of it. Like I just said, I just don't want to be on a sitcom. I was like 24 and I didn't think any of them were that great and
Yeah.
didn't think I could win at it. So I went back to Minneapolis and started over, and I started designing toys, and there's a bunch of toys, Tonka was
Yeah.
in Minneapolis. And so I fell in with these toy designers. I wanted to be a toy designer. And then it was kind of like, it's so hard. There's so many prerequisites. The cost of the production of a toy, is so nuts that it has to just find these margins. It's got to be fun. It's got to be cheap to produce. It's got to be fun to play with. I got one thing that got produced that they got it together for Toy Fair. It's like hanging on the wall in my kitchen. It's called the bubble fan. I took a fan and drilled hole. It was one of those section fans, and I drilled holes in it, and I put in bubble soap, and you open it up and it just makes like a ton of bubbles, right? It just like blows bubbles everywhere. So that's like the closest I got. And it was just like, oh, it's so hard. Comedy was like way easier. And so I started to kind of go, maybe I should do a show. And along this time, I was friends with Jerry Seinfeld, and he asked me to help him write his first HBO special. And so, but it wasn't really his stand-up. I did do a few things that he ended up being in his stand-up, but mostly it was to write the host segments, the wraparounds. So we worked on that, and that was like a great experience. And he kind of had this like great attitude. I mean, you kind of, as you know him, what you see is what you get. He's this really kind of happy. He's kind of like kind of joyful and just has a lot of fun. He had a great attitude, but he also worked at it like me. And so that really was fun for me to do that. And that was kind of got me going, you know what, I probably should go back and try to do TV somehow. And
so you became I mean, first of all, I just want to take a beat and just say, like, it's a crazy, interesting thing to start in comedy in Minneapolis, get to the point of headlining, go out to LA, make it, turn down what must have been a life-changing financial offer for you, in addition to probably a huge career opportunity. But you turn it down on the principle of it because you didn't like TV or the TV shows on at the time. It's really and then you make a toy for Tonka. I mean, you can see all the pieces of MST3K being put together.
It's all coming, right? Right, exactly. And also I did ventriloquism too, which is a big thing.
Right.
Ventriloquist. So that all plays into it. And then, so I'm thinking to myself going, this is cool. Like Seinfeld likes my stuff. Like we get along. It was fun. We had a great time making his special. And it was kind of like, I said, oh, cool. I know what I'm going to do. I want to write a science fiction comedy for Seinfeld. And so I started to write it, and I did drawings of it. And the next time we hung out, I showed it to him. And he looks at, and this is profound. He looks at me, he goes, Joel, this isn't a show for me. This is a show for you. And I just went, oh yeah, I'm trying to get off camera and be like a writer producer. And this guy says, you can't, you're not getting out of it. You're going to stay in it. So I started thinking about it, and it kind of was the beginning of MST, but really MST has some various things that kind of dropped on me that kind of said, oh, this would be a good show. So there's a couple of beats to that I can kind of explain, but it's not super. It wasn't like Seinfeld said, here, you do the show, and then I go, pow, here's Mystery Science Theater. I'd kind of like had pieces of it, but it kind of got me in the place like, you know what, I should front my own show. I'm the most famous guy in Minneapolis right now because I did Letterman and SNL. I could get a show. I could probably get a show made. I have a chance at it. And so what I got to the kind of the origin story of MST is a couple of things, but one is in college there was a thing called the Turkey Awards. That was the Medved brothers wrote this. It was like a satire of the Academy Awards, but it was with bad movies. So it was like Plan 9 from Outer Space and Freaks and Terror of Tiny Town, which was like a Western with an all little people cast. It was kind of like this really amazing book that had all these B movies that were outrageous. And I remember being in college and my roommate had this book and I loved it. And I said, why isn't anybody making a show with these movies? They're like adorable. These are fantastic. And Robot Monster and stuff like that. And then the other thing, the other piece of this was when I was in high school in Ashwaubenon, and it was like it all happened at we were getting ready for homecoming, and we were at the Wilkinson's house, and you can see the stadium from Wilkinson's house. It's that close. It's like a block from the stadium, and I grew up like 5 blocks from Kroll's. You know where Kroll's went,
sure,
right?
Yeah,
like I'm right in that neighborhood. So we parked cars on our front lawn. That's how close we were, right?
For Lambeau,
Packer
for the folks,
games, for Lambeau Field. And so we're at the Wilkinsons getting ready for the homecoming. Like we're working on the float. I think we're like twisting crepe paper. We made all our floats were made out of like chicken wire, and then you'd stuff it with this paper and make a shape. And it was like, we're working on that, and somebody put on the Elton John Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album. And I'm looking at the liner notes, and there's all these illustrations, but there's one illustration that's got, the song is called I've Seen That Movie Too. And it's these silhouettes, theater seats, with 2 people sitting there watching like a Clark Gable movie. And I'm looking at it going, like, that would be a great show. That would be a really funny show where you run a movie and have these people talk and like crack wise about the movie. But nobody's giving development deals to kids in Ashwaubenon at that time.
Yeah.
Right? It's not happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, that dropped on me. The movies dropped on me. And I said, I'm starting to notice, because a lot of these movies were in the public domain. So I figured I could do a show with public domain bad movies and these theater seats. And then the last piece was, one of the things I did after I quit comedy was I started making these robots out of found objects. This all came from my stand-up act, because I used to go to like the St. Vincent de Paul store and the Goodwill and just dig through bins of toys, and I a lot of my act was just made out of stuff like that, and I'd fabricate stuff out of, they called it bric-a-brac. The bottom of the basement of the St. Vincent de Paul store was tables and tables of bric-a-brac, which was just Tupperware and wah-wah pedals and all kinds of crap. And so it dawned on me one day, I think I saw a documentary about Star Wars, and they did this thing called kit bashing, where they made, like, the Millennium Falcon was just made out of a lot of other model parts that they collaged. And I started going, God, it'd be great to make puppets like that. It'd be great to collage these robots. So it was like the most instinctual thing I ever did was I just went down to there. I bought a shopping cart full of plastic shit for $10. And I took a hot glue gun and I made this robot and shot it with paint. And I go, I think I just did something. I just made something. And so I started selling those robots in a store called Props in Minneapolis. I sold like 70 of those robots. So
really
made 70 of them and got really good at it. And so that was the last piece. I go, oh, the silhouettes are the robots. There's a guy and 2 robots, which kind of comes from ventriloquism, where if like you're a really hot shit ventriloquist, you can do two dummies, right?
Yeah.
I thought I might have to do the voices, but it was in silhouette, so I didn't have to have good chops as a ventriloquist. But the original idea was I just thought it'd be me and doing the voices, but then the host segment became more and more important. I realized, I should find people to run the puppets. But those are the beats that dropped on me. And then I go, okay, I got it. I think this is it. And so the last piece was meeting a guy in Minneapolis who did production. And that was a guy named Jim Mallon, who also famously is from Madison. He was with I think his name Leon Varja. And they were the guys who did the Pail and Shovel Committee at Madison, and they did the flamingos on the Capitol steps, and they did the Statue of Liberty on Lake Mendota.
Oh, yeah.
I knew those guys. They were famous because when I was in high school, I heard about them, and I ran for student government just being funny, and I won, just like did funny posters, and I totally got ideas from them, like some of their tricks. And so I met Jim in Minneapolis, and he was making a movie when I first met him. And then he approached me about doing a thing like the Gong Show. He wanted to do a comedy contest. And after that meeting, I go, oh, dude, I know a guy in Minneapolis who has production. He worked at this little UHF channel, KTMA. And he had gear, and I go, I'm going to pitch him Mystery Science Theater. I'm going to pitch him this show. And he liked it, and we made it. We did it locally. We did 22 episodes locally and really figured it out then. You know what I mean? Really figured it out. So at the end, we cut together an 8-minute cell tape of our funniest riffs, and then went. The guy I worked with on the Seinfeld special, the producer, Stu Smiley. So the producer of Seinfeld special was a guy named Stu Smiley, and he was the head of Comedy Channel, which became Comedy Central.
Right, yeah.
I went to him and I go, I got a show, and we showed him the tape, and we got booked for like 22 episodes, and that was it. So that's the story, man, in a nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to see, because I think what's really cool about Mystery Science Theater is that it's sort of similar to the media landscape today, or it was ahead of its time in that you could go out there and you could do the LA thing, or you could stay here and really build it and get your reps in and find the show in the Midwest, and then when it's ready, take it out. But you kind of built your thing here, and you were able to do it from here for quite some time, which I think is very cool, very ahead of its time. And there wasn't anything else like it, I mean, you kind of went to the what'd you call it? The brick thing. What was that? Brick buying in the basement of the Goodwill.
Oh, bric-a-brac. Yeah.
Bric-a-brac. Yeah. You have this bric-a-brac of experiences.
Exactly. And then the other piece of it was the movie riffing, of course, was so undeveloped because we did the pilot. We did a little proof of concept tape to sell it. And it was like, I don't know, 5 minutes long. And my thing was really about the thing that, you have the host segment, the doors open, you go down the doorway, and then you have the theater. It's kind of has this continuity. And that was just based on growing up watching movie shows, and somebody would kind of introduce a movie, and then the movie started, and they never tell you like what was happening, like how did all this shit happen? Like, how did it get on my screen? It's so disruptive. Like, is he turning on a projector? Are we looking? Like, they didn't do any explanation. You're just supposed to understand it. And so to me, the important part was it's in a ship. This is the front of the ship. You go down a hallway and then you're in the theater. And that's what the pilot was about. Well, I just put a few jokes in. Like, I had one. It was The Green Slime was the movie we used for the pilot, and which is a super cool, like, 60s, like, Toho movie. And I had like a couple of jokes. The biggest one was they said something like, "That's a meteor." And I go, "That's not a meteor, that's a battle station." So I'm like riffing Star Wars, right? I just had a couple jokes to go, oh, this is where we put the jokes in. And so once we did it locally, that's when we could feel your way through it and start filling in more and more riffs, right? You just feel it, right, as you go, and just kind of make it as you want that density and that kind of feeling of abundance, right? So that's kind of what happened in those 22 shows we did locally. So we were so then the other thing that was really lucky about the timing was MTV was really big, and cable was opening up, and somebody said, well, we should do this with comedy. We should do a channel where we show clips from new movies and TV shows. And so our show just happened to fit in that, but they wanted us to move to New York. And we just said, oh, we're not going to do that. Our set is like built 4 feet off the floor, and we can't go in, and we're just not going to, we just said, no, it was too ridiculous. So we said, we got to stay in Minneapolis. Just send us the money and we'll send you a show. And it worked. So,
oh, that's cool.
They were hesitant, but our show was so cheap. It was like 35 grand a episode back then. So it was really inexpensive, even back in those times, back in 1989,
And then you've had all these evolutions of the show over the years. Is there sort of like a sweet spot in time where you like, has it continued to go up for you, or is there like an era that you appreciate the best?
Yeah. Well, I think I like it all. Like, I like, you can kind of see our growth, like the trajectory. Like, for example, when we did it locally on UHF, I don't know, we might have done 70 riffs, maybe a show. Like, just was, by today's standard, very Spartan. When we went and did our first season, we went to 300 riffs. And then the next season, it was like 600. And so and then it went up to 700. It usually hangs around 700 riffs per movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where it's remained since then. So we kind of got to that level. And then I left the show because I was fighting, Jamel and I weren't getting along. So I left the show, and I was kind of set up to, if it kept going, I'd do okay because I created it. And I like those shows just as much, because those shows that I didn't work on are completely a surprise to me when I watched them, so I think they're really funny. And then about 8 years ago, I got in a position where I could bring it back. And so we did Kickstarter and raised like $7 million, and we were able to bring the show back. And now it's on Netflix. So we got 20 episodes on Netflix, and it's really nice to be able to just direct people, oh, you want to see my show? It's on Netflix. And so that I like a lot, because we were able to really bring in an all new cast, new people. And like Patton Oswalt is the henchman, and Felicia Day is the Mad, and Jonah Ray is the host, and so those are the ones on Netflix. And and then we did another fundraiser, and we did our own streaming service for season 13. And so that was also really a great adventure to get to even experiment with that, because Netflix didn't want to buy any more shows. So we created our own streaming service called the Gizmoplex. And that's still running, and you can still go and check out the shows there, buy shows, or get a membership.
Yeah, it's what's cool about Mystery Science Theater is just the deep fandom. Like, I remember watching it with my brothers in our basement, like all the time, because it was on. Actually, it was in my. It was when we were over at my Nana's house, because she had the cable, and
Right.
so I think that's where it was. And then obviously once YouTube was there, you could watch a bunch of it there
Yeah,
too.
it's still doing great on YouTube, and it's streaming
It
on
streams.
so many, like Pluto and a million. It's kind of a joke how many other streaming, like 20 other streaming services. So it's really out there now, and it's still doing good. I'm happy to report. So it's kind of like, I think the Netflix thing made it really broad and brought in a whole new fan base,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of old timers too that were there back in the day when it was on, cable. So
And the other thing is it developed like it kind of gave a lot of movies a second life, because you were obviously using a lot of B movies, a lot of movies that were sitting on the shelves in the public realm, but they started to gain some popularity after your show
yeah,
too.
like Manos: The Hands of Fate is supposedly the new worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
So, and we found that. So there's things like that along the way that were super fun. And it is really weird looking at it over time, because you can't pull a movie out of the show. It's kind of like the movie is so much a part of it, and people are I think our most famous shows are the ones where the people really like the movie just as much. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that we did especially great. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just the movie's so amazing and weird that people are fascinated. It's really, how did this get made before how did this get made, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking back at it right now, what would you say you're most proud of with Mystery Science Theater?
Oh man, I mean, one of the things, and I think you get to enjoy this with the stuff you do. We never got notes. It was such a unique, weird show that they never. I mean, when I was there, we never got notes. We never had someone tell us like, this joke won't work, and what are you doing? It was just, we did it. We were really monitoring ourselves and just doing what we thought was funny. And because it's a puppet show, we never got dirty, or, when I was there, it never got that randy. And so I'm super proud of that, just that you can express yourself. You can be very direct. You don't need supervision from
Right.
some development person who's doing notes and flagging certain words and stuff. So that was really it. And what you're looking at, man, is a totally creatively sated man. I'm satisfied. I feel like I got to do it, and getting to come back to it and having it work so well with all new people, and just filling the writers room with people like you that grew up watching it when they were kids. It's really fun. And my friend Steve Higgins, who runs SNL, he's a producer on SNL. He has that same thing. He goes, "Yeah, it's really great when you have people who grew up watching your show and just want to participate with it." And
Yeah.
that thing, uh, it's really lovely thing. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm very grateful and feeling like open. Now I'm like the brand advisor for it. So I'm looking forward to whatever comes, but I'm totally content with all the things that we've gotten to do with it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like, what's sort of next for you then, from a comedy perspective, or is it kind of more in this realm of like, you're very satisfied with what you've done and you're just, whatever happens.
I want to do what every successful, entrepreneur does is I want to do a Mystery Science Theater miniature golf in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin Dells.
You're reading my mind, man. I would land it in Wisconsin Dells and have a lot of fiberglass shit.
Oh, dude.
I'd buy all that stuff from Noah's Ark, man.
Yeah.
All that fiberglass elephants and shit.
You know they got some bric-a-brac in the basement of Noah's Ark.
There's a lot. They do. Super huge bric-a-brac. It's my dream.
Right now, I think they have a Pirates Cove miniature golf course there.
That's right.
So you would have that competition, but I feel as though it would be safe to say you would blow Pirates Cove out of the water.
I would love that. I've been waiting to do that.
Yeah.
Waiting to kind of teach those guys how to do mini golf. It's been my dream.
I hope that happens. If you do that, I will be there on opening day.
We'll work it out. But that's my dream, man. Land it somewhere, southern Wisconsin, so you get that Chicago traffic, people looking to head up into Wisconsin and have a vacation. Tommy Bartlett's is closed down. You could take over that.
Hey, I mean, wouldn't that you could put robots on water skis?
Yeah, I had a real nightmarish experience in Tommy Bartlett's robot world because they kind of suggest that robots are going to take over, and then you're alone in this place. Nobody's was ever in there. Is it still up?
Hold on, Tommy Bartlett's Robot World is a place I have not been to.
Oh my God. I don't know if it's still running. I know that Tommy Bartlett's what was it called?
The Sky and Stage show. Yeah.
Sky Stage show is no more.
No, it's
just waiting to get renovated, man.
It is. I mean, it is sitting IP. You know what? Hey.
Come on. Throw in with me, man.
Okay.
Come on. Let's merge our fortunes together.
Why don't you dig into the finances and I'm going to see if I can
get it big. All right. We'll get it going. I'll come back. I'll report back to you, man. We'll see what happens.
That would be so cool, though.
I'll get it going. Yeah, we'll find something to do.
All right, man.
All waiting.
Hey, this was super fun, dude. It really was.
Hey,
cool.
I appreciate your work so much. I'm honored to be on your podcast. I'm a fan and I'm super proud of you. You're doing great and it's real good stuff. I have so many friends and people that have found your stuff and love it. It's real great.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, that's an honor to hear coming from you. I mean, me and my brothers, I told my brothers we were doing this. They were super pumped. And it was just really exciting. It's exciting to talk to you after watching your stuff forever.
Have Colleen call me if we get any investors sending you anything.
Yeah, no, let's put it out
with mini golf. Make money with mini golf.
If we can crowdfund that, reach out, guys. Reach out. Joel, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. I'll let you know when this is out.
All right. Cheers, man. Take it easy. Bye.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, Colleen.
All right, ladies and gents, that is it for my conversation with Joel Hodgson. You can find his stuff, joelhodgson.com. You can also go to youtube.com at MST3K, and you can watch episodes streaming on Netflix. Thank you all for listening to the Cripescast. Thanks to Colleen Maraca and Hannah Milos. And thanks to all of you. And make sure you watch out for deer. Okay, and have a wonderful Valentine's Day. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee. Sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.